Hello, everyone. This is Alexander Horat with the California Freedom Alliance. Today, we're going to be making a video on the proposed vegetation ordinance. And today, we're having a very special guest on the show, and that is Maria Horat. She is a licensed real estate broker in Tuolumne County. And we're going to be discussing the vegetation ordinance. And I'm going to be sharing my screen to show you what's going on. So here's on the Union Democrat headline. Tuolumne County proposed vegetation ordinance moves ahead to final vote on August 16th. So I'm just going to read this to show you what's going on. So here's a map showing more than 7,000 vacant and underdeveloped properties in Tuolumne County, which will be subject to new requirements for reducing or removing hazardous vegetation under a proposed vegetation ordinance being considered by county supervisors. So what this basically means is that the owners of this 7,000 vacant and underdeveloped properties in Tuolumne County are going to pay fines to Tuolumne County if they do not remove their so-called hazardous vegetation because of this vegetation ordinance. So they don't define hazardous vegetation. Does that mean like fruit trees, or does it mean grass, or how do they define it? I guess it's just up to interpretation and whether the county wants to fine you for your underdeveloped lot. So that's a pretty scary thing. And this vegetation ordinance will also apply. It seems to be for small acre lots up to 1,000 acres, however big lot there is. So the unfortunate thing about this is that there's a lot of people with fixed incomes who can't afford to cut their grass, and if they're elderly, they don't have the capability to cut their own grass. So that's another thing that's really going to hurt them. And if they don't pay these fines, they could have a lien against their land and lose their land to the county if they don't pay these fines. So that's a really scary thing. So I wanted to ask you a little bit how this is going to affect, you think, the real estate market, and how this is affecting their property rights. And if you could just give us a little overview on the ordinance itself, that would be great.
Sure, this is definitely another attack on our property rights. And it starts by just some very little regulation, and it starts evolving into a lot of regulation. So we've seen, and I'm just going to share my screen because I wanted to show this website here from CAL FIRE that we have had a defensible space inspection requirement in our county. And it's actually
For the entire state though, right?
Yeah, well, I'm talking about the county, because before somebody can sell a house, they have to call CAL FIRE to have them come out and inspect the property. This is for properties with a house on it. And they will give you like a checklist of what things that need to be done, and those things have to be done within 6 months after the buyer purchases the property. I thought that during the last meeting last week at the Tuolumne County Supervisor Board, someone said that that was going to be changing starting January 1st, that people are going to have to, the seller is going to have to take care of it before the property transfers. So we started with that. Then the conversation evolved to the ordinance, vegetation ordinance, to half-acre lots. Supervisor Goldenberg said on his during the meeting last week that they wanted to go further, that half-an-acre lots, that try to be nice at first, half-an-acre lots were going to be what they were considering, but then it quickly evolved to being of any size, lots of any size.
Yeah, and another thing to note about the defensible space thing is that that's a state law, that's not a county law. So the county is trying to go above and beyond to get more revenue from the taxpayers than even the state's doing, which in our state has the highest regulations already, and our taxpayers are really under enormous burden. So I just wanted to make that quick point.
So yes, and another point too we can make in counties like in Tuolumne County, where CAL FIRE, the insurance is astronomical in our areas. The fire insurance, homeowners insurance companies are no longer insuring for fire insurance, so people have to go to CAL FIRE, and that's costing at least double of what they used to pay. So it seems that for everyone, the cost of fire insurance is incrementally going up every year. So Another one of the concerns was how that was going to affect easements, and it wasn't really, I don't think it was really talked about a whole lot during last meeting. But the one thing that Supervisor Brandon brought up was the fact that if somebody can pay for these fines, there needs to be a safety net, because there will be unintended consequences. Of course, there's unintended consequences to any big government measure. So the financial assistance will help those who can afford to do this, cleaning up their lots. So the big question is, who's going to pay for this financial burden? The taxpayer is, like, it always happens. They're going to have to pay for the cost of that. And also, who's going to determine whether you can,
Get it for free or not.
Financial assistance or not. So Supervisor Kirk brought up a good point about that, the government shouldn't be in the business of trying to determine, who can afford to pay a fine or can't. And getting into all of that. So there is a whole, a bunch of can of worms that are going to be open with this ordinance. And we already know that there is another plan in the works with the climate action plan coming down the pipe. So basically, they are attacking us from all angles here in the county.
And could you discuss a little bit how this is a trample on property rights as well?
Well, yes, it is a trample on property rights, because they're going to be fining you for cutting your grass, basically, so and these enforcement officers are going to come out, and it's going to be up to their discretion. And this was something that Kathleen have mentioned. It's going to be up to their discretion to come up with how much is going to be, the burden for someone to do it.
And they're going to be hiring some sort of vegetation police, right? I assume.
Well, they talk about an enforcement officer, whether that's a fire chief or whoever they're going to have come out is going to be enforcement officers. Right. So and how that's going to fly. So what started with the defensible space is now evolving into an ordinance that's going to affect vacant lots of any size. Was tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be, the conversation is going to be that anybody with even a home on it is going to be subject to this ordinance. Right. And which means what are people going to do? Open the door to their fire or the enforcement officer to come into their property and inspect their property. Supervisor Kirk was shocked on how quickly they changed from a half an acre to the whole
however big your
property. He was actually supporting it before. He was supporting the half acre parcels to be subject to this ordinance, which explains that once you start going down that road, it's a slippery slope. There's nothing you can do unless everybody unites.
Yeah, and exactly too. You make a good point, because you say it's a slippery slope. The county now is gonna have the right to or not the right, a legal right, an unillegal right, I believe, to trample on your property, basically walk and tell you what you have to do with your own property. So are they going to say, oh, you can't paint your house this way, or you need to get rid of this trash, or blah, blah, blah. And it's going to turn Tuolumne County into HOA horror story, where there's a few petty dictators who can basically control every aspect of your life and your own private property, which you pay taxes on too. And that's going to be a major problem. It almost seems like this is just kind of like the government's acting like a leech almost. It's from the taxpayers. Basically, they keep growing and growing the size of the government, and the taxpayer, the pool of taxpayer people who pay taxes, that amount of people is decreasing. And, we saw that in your home country of Venezuela. We actually saw that in Venezuela, the people who only have money there are now government officials or employees. And everybody else has basically no money because it was a massive transfer of wealth. And that's what's happening in Tuolumne County. We see them increasing sales tax right now. They want to increase sales tax by 1%. Also by having this vegetation ordinance to fine us out of existence. So that's going to really be transferring a lot of wealth from, old people, elderly people on a fixed income onto the county, in my opinion. Do you agree with that? And a little bit about
Yeah, another thing I wanted to mention too, that Supervisor had mentioned, one of her concerns is the amount of misinformation out there. And she spoke about how the people under or farmers under the Williamson Act, it was not a concern for them. I just want to point out, so if she wants to avoid misinformation, it's a good idea that she brings this document up and actually reads from it, because it says parcels with a current Williamson Act contract and an approved agricultural plan on file that are single parcels or contiguous lots where slope, fuel model, or topography make fuel reduction difficult, may, in lieu of compliance with the provisions of this ordinance, create a reduced fuel plan approved by the Tuolumne County Fire Chief or designee, which in his or her discretion meets the intent of this ordinance. So it's going to be
Yeah,
again.
so it has to be by the Tuolumne County Fire Chief at his discretion is how,
Exactly.
so it's not at Williamson Act's person's discretion, it's at the fire chief's discretion. So
Yeah, they're not off the hook.
Kathleen Half may have been reading this wrong or misinterpreting this wrong, but unfortunately, it seems like she was giving out some untrue information at one of the meetings, basically saying how this wouldn't really apply to people under the Williamson Act who are usually farmers and
Right.
things like that.
So, and the enforcement part. So they're going to have the two things that they're going to be discussing is going to be who's going to be a first target. I know Supervisor Brandon was talking about there's going to be a first target and a secondary target of the vacant lots that are going to be affected. So the first target, his recommendation was that would be the lots, vacant lots that are adjacent to commercial property or developments, housing developments. And the second targets are going to be for people who are have properties out there further away. Either way, it's going to affect them. But the first are going to be the closer. And the other thing they want to talk about is the financial assistance part of it. Another one of the county workers said that the financial assistance is a requirement. So that either way, they have to put something in there for that. So how that's going to play out, it remains to be seen, but we know it's not going down the.
Like who does that apply? Who does that apply to? Number one.
Yeah, how are they going to determine who qualifies for financial assistance? Who's going to pay for it? Well, we know who's going to pay for it, but either way, everybody's going to be on the hook for these, not just the homeowners. I mean, this is going to affect everybody in our county and our property rights.
And it would adversely affect the real estate market too, because say somebody wants to buy, a lot vacant property, but now you're putting all this huge burden of them, like you have to go and mow your 100 acres of grass when you really don't have the time to do that or anything. Then you have to pay this huge fine if you don't. So that'll probably cause a decrease. It'll probably adversely affect the real estate market and will cause a lot of liens to be put on vacant land by the county. So the county's going to be getting enriched because they're going to be getting all this free land that they take from people. So it's really, it goes back to the leech theory. Basically taking people's land for their own benefit and fining people so the government becomes more wealthy and us, the taxpayer, becomes less wealthy.
Yep. So what we need to do is everyone needs to really learn what's going on at our local level, where we can possibly try to change things from taking place, really be involved with what's happening, learn what these supervisors are trying to pass, and show up to the county meetings, really voice our opinions, because if we don't, we're just going to be pushed out of here.
Exactly, because that's eventually their end term goal, is to move everybody out of the rural areas and move to the big cities, unfortunately. So I would really urge everybody who's watching this video to please attend the county meeting this coming Tuesday. I believe the meeting starts at 9:00 at South Green Street in Sonora, in the Board of Supervisors chambers. We really just need to voice our opinion and say no to this. But furthermore, the main goal of this club is to advance good people who want to run for office, who are for shrinking the size of government, decreasing taxes, and basically making and protecting our freedoms in Tuolumne County. So the California Freedom Alliance is actively looking for people like that. So if you'd like to join the California Freedom Alliance, please email me at at CaliforniaFreedomAlliance@gmail.com. I'll leave the email down in the description below. We hold our meetings twice a month. So you can email me if you'd like to join. Yeah, and we just discuss things like this. And yeah, is there anything else you'd like to add in this video, or
No, I mean, basically that's it. We really need to keep our eyes out there for all these things coming down the pipe that's going to affect everyone, not just the landowners, but it's going to affect home ownership as well. There is the climate action plan that they're working on. There's no real solution on what kind of power we're going to be transitioning to because there's, we can barely keep our lights on in our county. So that's a whole nother topic that I would love to talk with you, Alex.
it's just to make it harder for us to live and work here. So yeah, I'd urge you all to join our alliance if you can. And I would also, if you could all join our Facebook group, that would be really appreciated as well. And I'd just like to say thanks again for doing this video with me. And I would also like to thank everybody who was watching this video. If you could please really share this to all your friends, everybody you know. This needs to become a viral video so people know what's going on. I'd just like to thank everyone for watching again, and I hope you have a good day. God bless.
Thank you, Alex.